Namaskar, everyone, and a warm welcome to our webinar series, AI in Management Consulting. I can see that we have still others trying to log in, so I will allow a few seconds for everyone to join us, and then we'll be ready to start. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, again. And I am your host, Wade Azmi from Singapore, and I'm thrilled to kick off this transformation series that addresses perhaps the most critical shift happening in our industry today. I'm sure you will all agree, AI is no longer an option for management consultants. It's an imperative. We are told to imagine a world where our consulting practice is powered by instant insights, streamlined workflows, and the ability to anticipate client needs before they even ask. That world isn't science fiction anymore. It's here, and it's powered by artificial intelligence. The firms that embrace AI will undoubtedly shape the future of consulting, while those who don't risk being left behind. This series is designed for consultants ready to lead, not follow. And today is our first session. Our focus is really today is on demonstrating how you can harness AI to supercharge your business development and prospecting efforts. We'll be looking at why every consultant must act now to stay relevant and competitive. And today it gives me great pleasure to have first my co-host, David Maloney, our Global CEO. David, welcome to the webinar.
Thanks for having me, Wade. Great to be with you.
Thank you, David. And of course, my two colleagues and guests today from Australia, Ian Richards, Practice Leader, Customer and Pricing. Welcome, Ian.
Hi, Wade. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And as well from Australia, Patrick Possart, Practice Leader, Data and Transformation. Welcome, Patrick.
Hi, Wade. It's great to join you here.
Thank you. So now that we have most of the participants online, I would like to thank you again for joining us today. And I'm sure you will be able to gain a lot of insights from the session we have today with our senior consultants, Ian and Patrick. So let's dive in and discover how we can collectively step into the future of consulting. I'll start by asking Ian. Ian, one of the immediate benefits of AI is the ability to reimagine prospecting. Could you walk us through how AI tools can be used to generate deeper insights into our target clients, please?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks, Wade, and thanks everybody for joining. Let me just share my screen and hopefully. So what I'd love to share with you this evening is through the work I've been doing over the last really 18 months, I've had deep exposure to a number of different AI tools. And what I'd like to share with you this evening is some perspective on the core Google toolkit for AI, which I think is very relevant to our own Google Workspace. It makes it a lot easier to share documents and extracts, etc. So what I want to talk about this evening with you are essentially four tools that are very closely related. One is called Gemini, which is the core AI assistant, as they're now called, within the Google Work Suite. And you can think about that as having your junior analyst in the old consulting terminology, somebody to ask questions to do the base research, to check things. You can just have a very conversational relationship with them, and they'll always come up with a point of view. The second tool is called Notebook LM, which is a lesser known tool from Google, but is extremely powerful at analyzing data in a very controlled environment. And I'm going to illustrate all of these with examples. So you can load up meeting notes, interview notes, PDFs, documents, even YouTube clips, etc., and interrogate them. And I'll demonstrate how I'm using that at the moment. And then both of those tools, there's a version of both of those tools that are free to everybody. But there are certain limitations with the free subscription in terms of your ability to use them frequently. So I think the pro subscription on AI for Google is about 30 Aussie dollars a month. And that certainly frees you up from a lot of the basic constraints. And that enables a third toolkit within Google called Deep Research, which I think is a must for us in our industry. It enables you to do some very powerful research. It's essentially like having your own project team to execute deep studies. And then the fourth is what they call Gemini Canvas, which is the ability then to create and iteratively refine documents. And again, I think is very powerful in terms of producing final deliverables. So I'm going to talk about all of those four tools and how we use them. I'm going to talk a little bit about the skill required to actually get the best out of them, because like all technology, it's garbage in, garbage out. So the core skill with AI is the ability to write an effective prompt, essentially like a project brief. So you've got to be very clear about the persona you want the AI to take, the context for the inquiry, the task you want it to undertake, and then how you want to see the output. Getting this right will save you a huge amount of reiteration time. And then in terms of the actual core consulting process, we're going to walk you through some examples around prospecting and discovery, diagnosis, and then design if we have time this evening. So that's what we're going to try and cover, Wade. I think your first question was around prospecting and discovery.
Yeah.
So let me illustrate that with a few different tools and how I personally use the suite of tools available to us. So Gemini, I said, is that general junior research analyst, can help you understand overviews about an industry, and I'll illustrate that. And then I'm going to show you how I use NotebookLM to really drill down into that data, make sure I understand it, have a conversation with the data. And then I'm going to show you how we can use deep research to really produce a substantial piece of thinking about an industry or a sector. And then finally, how we can use Canvas to turn some of those data insights into emails, LinkedIn posts, presentation outlines, etc. So let me just go to the first of those, which is Gemini. And I've set some of this up already simply because there's always a lag with AI, and deep research in particular takes 15 or 20 minutes. So you get very good at either going making your cups of tea or walking the dog in between doing some of this stuff. So I've already set it up so we can hopefully step right through it without any lags. So as a first example, I'm based in Melbourne. I've spent some time working in the resources industry. So as an illustrative example of what you can do here, this is my first prompt into Gemini. So I said, well, I want to identify potential companies that I can pitch to. Please identify major players in the mining services industry that turn over at least $1 billion and that have operations in Australia. Please summarize the results in a table showing company name, turnover, primary focus, key insights, and in which city they're headquartered. So you can see there, I've followed some of those principles about a prompt. I've told it what I want to do. I told it the specific task. I've given it some context, and I've told it what I want the output to look like. And so this produces very quickly a table of all the major players in the mining services industry. So you can see, I can export that. You can see it's a table. Doesn't look great in this particular screen, but I can export it to Google Sheets. So I've got it in a document if I want to play around with it. But that immediately gives me a feel if I believe I'm going to target these organizations, who they are, where they're based, gives me a very quick lay of the land, if you like. And I can see that one of those is an organization called Orica. It's a former company of mine. I know them pretty well. I haven't worked with them for many, many years, and they're not a current client of ICG, I don't believe. But I thought that would be an interesting use case in terms of exploring, then diving down into that next level of detail. So I might go, okay, I want to learn more about Orica. So this is where I step over into the next tool, which is called NotebookLM. So what Notebook LM, as the name kind of implies, it's a working scratch pad of all of your documentation and insights that you've got on a topic. And in this case, the topic happens to be Orica. So what I've done here is I've gone into Orica's website. They're obviously a listed company, and I've loaded down their investor presentation, their annual report, and their latest ASX announcement. So those top of mind things that will give me a feel for the organization. And I've loaded them up onto Notebook LM. And what Notebook LM does, it synthesizes all of that data and just that data. So it's not looking outside of this particular set of data to find more information about Orica. It's just relying on what I know about it. I could also add my own personal notes. Maybe I've had some previous interactions with them. I've had discussions with certain, if I had, meeting notes about meetings with executives there, other documentation I might have about them. Maybe I've got an analyst report from an investment bank. I could feed all of that information into Notebook LM and it would synthesize it all together. And so what you can see here, it gives me a little bit summary of Orica based on the information I've loaded up, and it produces what is called a briefing document. So the briefing document is this here, and it automatically creates this. I'm not having to ask it to do that. And this briefing document is like a 2-page executive summary that I would have previously asked my analyst to go and crunch for me in big consulting land, that tells me all about Orica as an organization, tells me their financial performance, their strategy, etc. But the other thing is I can start to have a conversation with Notebook LM if there's something I would like to know. So I might say, well, who, it's going to show up my poor typing skills here, but that's the beauty of AI, is you don't need to spell correctly. Who is oh dear me, this is showing me up. Now let's see if it can actually work out my appalling typing. Right. One of my interests with customer and pricing is net promoter score. I might say, well, do they actually have a net promoter score? Sometimes finding that by going through investor presentations and annual reports is very painful. So you can see here very quickly, it tells me what their net promoter score is, what the trend of that is, etc. So straight away, we've got a tool here that's given us a profile of the organization. I now know a little bit more about them if I want to go and pitch to them. And the second thing that we might want to do, if we're really developing a sort of go-to-market proposition for Orica, is that I might want to know a little bit more about the industry within which they compete. So that's when we come back to a tool like Gemini and start to do a little bit of deep research. So here is an example of a very simple prompt, again in very natural language. Please create a piece of deep industry research on the Australian mining services industry. I want to understand market size, key players, share, geographic regions, key trends, and the outlook for future growth. So again, a great example of something I might have thrown to a team of analysts if we're preparing for a major pitch to an organization. Tell me about the industry these guys compete in. And that's a piece of deep research. So you go and select this particular icon within Gemini. What this does, it comes back with a brief about what it's going to do, which is this piece here. And it says, well, I'm going to go and do this, and I'm going to go and research across all the websites I can find. This is actually an example of what they call agentic AI. So it's starting to step outside of the LLM that is based, that Google Gemini is based on, and do some proactive research. And it will go away and construct a research. Now, this will typically take 15, 20 minutes. And what will come back is a 50 to 60 page document profiling the industry within which Orica compete. And very rich, very detailed. And you can see here again, we've got a profile, we understand who the different players are in the industry, etc. So now I've got a piece of insight about Orica as an organization and a piece of insight about the industry within which they compete. So I'm able to really start to form some insights about how to shape our value proposition and our pitch to them.
Wow. This is definitely a very detailed coverage of how we can explore the issue of prospecting, Ian, and find opportunities that we may decide, to approach directly. Now, moving into once we get this information that can help us to qualify and decide, and if in preparation for approaching the client, obviously we need a capability statement, or what is more known in ICG, the value proposition deck.
Yeah.
How can we prepare this using AI? I know it takes a lot of time. Every time we try to personalize this to a client needs to reflect the best value that they can get from us in our engagement. How can we use AI to do that, Ian?
Yeah, well, this is where AI really steps into its own way, because it has this fantastic ability to synthesize numerous documents and then manipulate them at will. So unlike analysts who get tired of doing that after a while, we can keep asking it to repeat that analysis until we're happy with it. And we can change our mind multiple times, which is a great luxury. So let me just illustrate that with my own work. So as you said at the introduction, I'm a practice lead for pricing and customer. So I've been working with Alan Meloche over in Canada to develop a pricing deck. I think if I click that and open it, it will come to life. Yeah, so this is a kind of standard ICG looking deck where we talk about pricing, our point of view on pricing, what it takes to deliver great pricing. It's quite rich, it's quite extended. We go into quite a level of detail about the different things we can do on methodology, where we've made an impact with clients, and then detailed case studies, etc. So I'm sure the deck that many of you are familiar with for your own practice areas. So what I say to Gemini is take this existing deck, which I've fed in PDF form, and create a statement of capabilities that outline how we go about delivering, what our brand promise is, how we deliver on our brand promise, where we've delivered it previously, what we really do well, etc. So this is then Gemini has then crunched and synthesized all of this data to come up with a coherent set of capabilities. And you see here it's honoring our 6-pillar framework, as we've talked about, our engagement model, etc. And what I demonstrate in this particular chat, if I can just close that down, is it comes up with a first set of the capabilities that is pretty good. And then here's what we will do, what we will not do, etc. And then I go, okay, that hasn't quite got the level of detail I want. So I have a conversation with it. I say, please provide more detail on our engagement model. So it goes and reaches in and finds that next level of detail, which is in the deck on the engagement model. Right, that looks good. Consolidate that into an overall statement, etc. Yes, I like all of that. And you can see here, each of these is sourced, so I know exactly where they're coming from. And I get to that. And then, okay, right, incorporate that and synthesize an overall statement of capabilities. So what now I've got is this quite extended sort of capability statement about what we've done, where we've done it, etc. And then I can now use that as the basis to create some downstream collateral. So one of the things that I might like to do is send an email to my existing contacts. So I've said I'd like to introduce the new practice to some of my existing contacts. Please draft an introductory email. So this is what comes back. So you get quite coherent. Now, all of this, as with AI, you never want to just cut and paste. You always want to read it carefully, but it gets you to 80 to 90% of the required solution straight away. So here I've got an email that I can use to launch the new practice. And you go, well, okay, that's great. What about some LinkedIn posts? So you go, well, please draft 3 LinkedIn posts that I can post over the next month. So again, coming back, it knows what LinkedIn is. It knows how to draft content for LinkedIn. So here I get 3 outlines for a LinkedIn campaign that I can post. So now I've got a statement about what we do. I've got an email campaign I can use. I've got some LinkedIn posts I can use. So I can start to sort of create that brand awareness that the marketers would call. And then the last thing I want to think about then is, well, how does this play into Orica? So I've got to fit together what I bring to the table with what Orica's dealing with in the industry they compete in. So here I combine that capability statement, the deep research I produced about the mining industry, and an overview of Orica. And I say, right, please help me draft a potential pitch to Orica about how ICG pricing could help them deliver on their growth ambitions. The story should follow a classic situation, problem, solution type structure. The tone should be friendly but professional. The audience are C-suite executives. Please refer to the attached documents for information about Orica, the global mining services industry, and pricing. So again, I'm following those good prompt principles. And what comes out is an introductory sort of suggested pitch process that could form the basis of a letter that we send off to Orica. You go, okay, well then that's great. Can you turn that into a 10-page presentation? So then it creates a 10-page presentation for me with headlines, suggested content for each of the slides, etc. And then can you also craft an introductory email for me to send to the CEO of Orica with our proposition? So here we've got an outline of a letter, and what the beauty of AI is, it's smart enough to refer to, so it sets the context. It understands what Orica's trying to do strategically. It sets the context of that. It nuances what we're trying to do with pricing and around delivering growth and talking about the targets. So again, we've got a letter, a 10-page presentation ready to go that's nuanced, and we can refine offline.
Wow. Eye opener. Patrick, any reflections? I know you also is a big user and fan of these tools. Any reflection on this part?
Yeah, I mean, Ian's walked through the process incredibly well. And I think we had a meeting of the minds. We've both found out we were using more or less the same tools in the same way. And you've seen with Gemini and Notebook LM, you've got an incredibly powerful tool set just out of the box. Ian, you didn't mention how long it took you to go from that initial prompt, tell me about the companies in the industry, to this letter to the CEO.
Probably end-to-end time, an hour, allowing 20 minutes for a cup of tea and a bit of deep research. And so if you sat down intensively to do this, probably within an hour we've got a letter.
And what I've found is, instead of making a cup of tea or walking the dog, I then just start working on another client's sort of pitch. And through a day, you can be insanely productive. And also, if you don't have all the materials to hand, if you could go back to one of the Notebook LM tabs, you'll see under sources on the left-hand side, there's Discover. So if you don't even want to, just say, what are you interested in? Let's say Orica mining. So it's a live demo I'm putting in on the spot.
Yes.
It is incredibly good at even finding the sources that you need. So it's found a lot of useful complementary material, and very quickly. So I've found adding those sorts of things in, clearly always check what you're adding in, that it is truly relevant. But adding those things in just increases the richness of what you're working with. One other thing, because I've grown to love this tool set. In Notebook LM, you've got the studio on the right-hand side. It's still a lot of text. And sometimes you do want to make a cup of tea and just sit back and reflect on the information that's come back. And you can yeah, load a conversation. And what this will do, it sounds like a really interesting radio discussion between, you can say,
Welcome
between
to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a closer look at Orica. They're a global leader in mining and infrastructure solutions.
And celebrating 150 years, which is pretty remarkable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So you get the idea. I mean, you don't even have to sit there and read. You can just get it to do some research, come back, listen to it, walk around the room, or take a walk in the park and listen to the findings.
Yeah.
And of
it
course,
is-
you can share and collaborate as well.
Yes, exactly. And the other really powerful application of Notebook LM is as you get subject matter areas. So for example, with me with pricing, every pricing textbook that I try to get a PDF version of it, every article in other publications on pricing, I load them all into a Notebook LM file. And then every time I've got a pricing query, a pricing question, I interrogate that particular database. And that's also extremely powerful, because then you can say, well, please generate me 3 series articles on pricing. I'd like to have a series on the basics, etc. And so again, very quickly, you're generating 3 to 4 pages of content on pricing based on the best minds in the industry. And it's applicable to any area. Yeah, we may have run out time this week. Do you want me, Wade? How are we doing for time?
I would love actually to take 2 minutes. I enjoy going through the tools that you actually develop, Ian. So I would like to take this opportunity to give our audience also some feel of the type of tools that consultants can create using AI as diagnostic tools for their business and for their projects, in order to synthesize all the information that we collect and use it for diagnosis. So please, if you can share one of the tools that you have developed, that would be great.
Okay, let me try and skip through this in 2 or 3 minutes. So the third application of a facility like Notebook LM is, I talked a little bit earlier about the importance of getting prompts right. So one of the things that I did fairly early on, I ended up watching way too much YouTube, but all the current information about how to do this is on YouTube. It's not in formal training material. So I identified about 10 to 20 different YouTube broadcasts on good prompting practice. I loaded them into Notebook LM. And so now whenever I want to do a piece of deep research, I start in this particular Notebook LM with a question that I'm trying to answer. So if I can actually type reasonably well this time, I might say something like, please create me a deep research prompt on B2B pricing. I want it to follow the 6 pillars in ICG pricing, which I've attached, so it knows what those are, etc. So I won't go through it all now, but you can get a sense that I have a quite natural language conversation with the prompt engine. The prompt engine then comes back. So this is one I did earlier, as they say. So I asked it exactly that question, and here you can see it comes back with a very rich prompt, being very specific about the information I'm looking for, that enables me to build a study into B2B pricing. So I then load that into Google. So that's into Gemini, sorry. That's the prompt that we just saw in Notebook LM. Very rich, very detailed. I get it comes back with what it's going to do based on that prompt. I don't usually refine that. I go, that's fine, looks good, start. And so again, as with the industry product, 20 minutes later, I've got this 60-page document on best practice in B2B pricing, structured in a way that I can then quickly synthesize into a tool. So one of the first things that I've done, so if I open that, that's the deep research, 60 pages of detail, but you can see here it started to lay out that detail because I want to use it as a diagnostic tool. It started to help me understand what constitutes leading through to basic practice in each of these areas. So what I can then quickly do, sorry, it has an annoying habit of going to the bottom of the chat every time you come out of it. I then say, well, that's great. Turn that into sorry, find the right one here. Turn that into an interactive diagnostic. So one of the little features on Gemini is that you can create websites or infographics based on content, which are extremely powerful ways of seeing into 60 pages of content. So here you can see, and I didn't give it much more than turn this into an infographic. Here I've got my 6 pricing pillars, and I've got underneath or above that in this particular infographic, I've got 5 questions in a maturity style diagnostic, ready to go with a synthesis of what that particular issue here. So here I've developed, 5 questions under 6 pillars. I got 30 questions, each very well defined as a maturity diagnostic. So basically I've got the form of a survey ready to go. So I look at that and go, well, that's great. That's my survey. Let's turn that into a survey that I can go and execute. And let's just skip over the bit because you can take it from my words. Here it is. I said turn that into a survey tool that I can then import into Google. Yep, great, done that. And then I can load up. We can go and execute that across a leadership team within a business, and we can get some very real-time data on that business. So here I've created some sample data. It's obviously not Orica. It's completely made up, but you can here see an execution of that dashboard. So I've got a score across each of my pricing pillars, and I can click on these and see the breakdown of those survey results. And it's synthesized all the verbatims to identify the key themes for me. So very, very quickly, we've gone from a piece of industry research to a diagnostic tool, to a questionnaire, to the insights. So now I've got something I can share with the management team about what we found. So that's really powerful in its own sense. So you can I can then have a conversation with it and go, well, what does the change program look like based on that? So what should we actually do? And here's what comes out. So here's the initiatives. I've told it I want initiatives, I want quick wins, I want that. This is how I want the initiative defined. So I'm quite prescriptive about what I'm looking for, but it's starting to create the outline of a change program for me. And I wanted that a little bit refined, I think. So if I just make sure I've got, yeah. So this is the is this the second version? Right. So here we go. Here's the more refined version of the story. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to get 11% profit increase. Where are you now? You're 2.8 out of 5. What does the solution look like? We're going to go through these steps. What does each of the initiatives need to look like? If I click on that, give me the next level of detail underneath it. What does the timeline look like for implementation? How are we going to measure our success? And what's the impact going to look like? What's the business case? Where are we going from and to, and what's the benefits? So I've done all of this in literally less than an hour. I've gone from a piece of best practice research to a diagnostic tool. We've then got to execute it. And now I've got a roadmap for change on the back of it.
And it's
Brilliant.
worth highlighting that you're using Google's Canvas. If you see in the bottom left corner, you've got Canvas selected there.
Yes.
And this sort of heralds the death of PowerPoint. You now get directly interactive presentations with pop-ups, with embedded data. It's far richer and very, very portable as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Patrick. This is, I think, the nails are in the coffin for PowerPoint and traditional presentations.
Excellent. Just remind all our audience, if you have any questions, please use the question tab to drop your question, and we will take the opportunity to answer them as we progress. I have received one question here asking if all these tools are included in the ICG membership. They are included actually in the Google subscription that you will have as part of your ICG membership. And as you may have noticed from Ian and Patrick today, most of these tools that we use are the free version that's included in our subscription. Obviously, we need to pay for them, and that's why we have the ICG business subscription. However, we're also considering, as we refine our model, to add more tools as necessary as we progress. So there will be more work done in this area as we continue to develop our model. So that was one question we answered. And while we are waiting for more questions to come, I will invite actually David, to give us some reflections about our experience today.
Well, thank you, Wade. But more importantly, thank you, Ian and Patrick, for putting this material and sort of sample work experience and sharing it with us globally. I think you're demonstrating the power of the ICG model. ICG is about a whole bunch of talented people collaborating to produce better outcomes for clients and consultants. The process by which we have done that has continued to improve over the last decade and a half, and I think will only accelerate because of these new tools and the leadership that you've demonstrated, ensuring that all of the consultants who are members of ICG have access to the type of coaching and tutoring that you and others provide, frankly, on a daily basis through the interactions that we all have with each other. And I think the caliber of the work is obviously reflected by the screen. Forbes have identified us for 2024 and 2025 as one of the world's leading management consulting firms. In fact, the only one within the 200 headquartered in Australasia. And so, the idea that I can now have time to get a dog, consume more polyphenols from tea, I think is a huge positive, and will mean that me and others invest even further in this. And of course, the whole idea behind ICG is to not leave money on the table. That as independent consultants, we typically can't charge as much as branded firms, but within ICG you can, and not only charge more for yourself, but also get leverage by selling other experts, like yourself. So, I'd love to hear a bit more from, Patrick and Ian around their particular skills, because I think people on this call now and those that watch it later, should be reaching out to you for the application of this type of technology to, real world problems. And of course, you're also talking to the social benefits of collaboration. Being an independent can often be a challenge. So not only do you miss out on learning, but you're not able to collaborate, which I think is a very human trait. So, our motto at ICG, with apologies to the SAS, the British SAS, is who shares wins. So I think this is a perfect demonstration of that. So thank you for your time and efforts.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much. And now we have a few questions. So I will ask my guests and colleagues to help me here. First question, for the time being, while PowerPoint is still the communication platform of choice, how can we transfer this content into the ICG PowerPoint template?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one that's exercised me considerably. There's two approaches. There's two tools I found out there, cut a long story short, that are worth considering. One is a tool called Gamma, and Gamma creates very good looking PowerPoint presentations quite quickly, but they're very structured. So basically it takes it applies a kind of pyramid type structure to a piece of communication and then puts some pictures around it. So it's okay, but I think it's a bit constrained for what we do. The other tool that is impressive is a tool called GenSpark, which is part of the new agentic AI, which we're going to talk about in our next webinar. That creates much more parsable presentations, but it's still not perfect when it passes it into PowerPoint. So as Patrick said, they're creating HTML files, which they then render into PowerPoint. So it's something that is going to improve a lot. I'm confident. It's another reason why I think backing Google and Slides makes sense, because they probably have the need to integrate those better, but it's not there yet today.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I would add,
yeah, go ahead, please.
That I find that if I'm building a PowerPoint, I will still natively build it, and for now, copy and paste elements in. There are other tools as well. I use Draw.io instead of Visio. It's just great for producing schematics. So you can take a prompt result, give it to Draw.io, and it will draw your org chart or your process flow, just like that. And another very useful tool is napkin.ai. Just give it a random table or a list of stuff, and it will give you 10 different ways of presenting it quite beautifully, visually, graphically. So I would say, whilst we've looked at the core process of using NotebookLM and Gemini, there's an awful lot of things that you can do with the content that they generate, again, just to suit your audience.
Yeah,
sure. We have a good question that I've been waiting for, to be honest. The question is, great live examples, Ian, thank you for that. Just as you have used the AI engines and tools, what is stopping the client from taking all your research and diagnostic and implementing all the required best actions themselves?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's absolutely the right question. The answer is, I think it's the experience and the wisdom and the grey hairs that we've got about what is actually the right tool at the right time. What does the process need to look like? These are just tools for us to create artifacts very, very quickly. We've always had that ability. We've just used a lot of people to do that for us previously, and now we can do it quite quickly and quite easily. So clients are always going to become more sophisticated and have these same tools at their fingertips, but it's knowing how to create diagnostic tools, and it's then the support behind them, the benchmarks, the application, the insights about what is actually a sensible change program need to look like. But the reality is, this is going to cannibalize some of our sort of low-end activities, if you like. So as with all transforming industries, we need to move up the food chain.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I would add, in Ian's example of the sales tool or the sales diagnostic, I've built something very similar in terms of data maturity diagnostic. And you don't just take all the sort of standard industry textbooks. The key is to layer in your own client work. And it gives it a richness and a level of insight and maturity in the tool that a client just using native sort of generative AI isn't going to get. So the sell is really that we've been around the block. We've been doing this for 15, 25 years, whatever, and we can really build that insight into the tools that we're offering.
Yeah, absolutely. If I may add myself, actually, based on my own experience, I think it's the same reason why they hire us at the first place. We have the ability to curate. We have the ability to filter out what's known in AI as hallucination. We can filter this out easily just by quickly look at the material to be able to tell whether we need to cut it out or we consider it even or not. For us, it's a productivity tool, and that's actually a very important thing, that we can filter out the hallucination. I would love to continue, and we have more questions, and I promise you what we will do, we will keep all these questions and will be answered over the next. I will keep actual record of all of them, but out of respect to all of you and the time that we commit to all the time, I would like to take this opportunity to thank my guests and colleagues today. Ian, Patrick, thank you so much for putting the energy to prepare all of this. We are just scratching the surface today. We just started. And what's come is much, much deeper with more contents and more learning that I'm sure you will enjoy. Our sessions going forward will cover the AI in the proposal generation, the AI in project execution, the AI in project closing and knowledge management, and then the human interface and the collaboration among others using the toolkit we have. A very rich series that we are putting together. And basically, it's about the future. And that's what every one of us want to improve, and definitely what the AI will give us the capacity to do that. So thank you all again for joining us today. We look forward for seeing you in our next session as we continue our journey into the future of consulting powered by AI. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Wade.